Star Wars is known for its deception in trailers and marketing materials, but something about this new look is making us question everything we know about Ahsoka. Her path isn't a direct one, and this whole series is taking the approach to a new level. Let's get into why this Ahsoka is no Jedi. Welcome to Star Wars Uplink, your place for everything Star Wars gaming, the TV shows, and the movies. Let's jump in.
Just you reconsider playing that message for him.
We're stepping up. We are, as we're recording this, 9 days away. When this episode comes out, it will be 8 days, I believe.
Ho, ho, ho.
We are so close to Ahsoka actually coming out, and because of that, we're getting so much more information, and it seems like they just really opened up the floodgates.
Yeah.
We've gotten so many little TV spots, promo spots specifically on this platform, for this platform over here. So there's all of these differences in each different version that you can kind of take and say, okay, we can get more details on what is actually going to happen in the Ahsoka show. And that's exciting.
Mm-hmm. For us crapping on their,
I do think they have done a terrible job with spacing things out.
Yes, that's
They went
for sure.
so long without any information, and now it's like, we're going to crank up the dial to 11, and you're going to have so many TV spots that you can't watch them all ever.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's a really weird, just floodgates open.
It's
all
what
of
they
these
do with
little
all
things.
of their shows, but I
Really?
don't understand it because they do it with all of their shows, or most of their shows, really. Mostly with Star Wars, but they don't do anything, and then they do it all leading up to it. And I feel like you need to have a little bit more of some sprinkling in there, because I still think they're marketing this show to Rebels fans and Clone Wars fans. They are not marketing this for the average Star Wars fan.
Or even the non-Star Wars fan.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. That's what I kind of I'm confused about. It's that this is totally Star Wars. They are not. And not even.
I think they did a really good job with kind of
Yeah.
broadening it out, telling all the details, but also still making it clearly Star Wars.
Yeah, but they're not even trying to be subtle about it. They're just being oh, if you know Star Wars, you'll know this sort of thing. It just seems like they're just really pushing the niche Star Wars people. About,
which I think is fair, but there still hasn't been let's talk about to someone who doesn't know anything, who didn't watch Clone Wars, who didn't watch Rebels, which I know I've seen in the comments a lot of the stuff that we've been making of they're not a real Star Wars fan if they haven't watched Rebels or Clone Wars. Not a lot of people watch Clone Wars and Rebels, but not as many as the TV show, live action TV shows, or the movies.
And I just watched Clone Wars 3 years ago, maybe. It's not something that's just super oh, I just watched all the Star Wars. I need to watch this now. It's not a
7
natural
seasons.
It's not a natural progression either. It's not something that you're gonna go straight from.
Yeah, I'm gonna go episode 1 all the way to the end of season 7. No, because it's like an anthology, and you're gonna jump around all these different places. Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's a choice.
But with all of the marketing stuff that they have been doing, we've gotten some interesting things when it comes to this TV show. I think I made a video about this, about how I don't necessarily think it's the greatest idea to have Anakin in this series, mostly because of the whole idea of this is the Ahsoka show. While Anakin is a big part of Ahsoka, I really want to see what she's been up to now. Why are we caring about Ahsoka now? What does it make it look like? But with this new footage that we've got, the new trailers and all that stuff, we do have a little bit more details on what we think the story is going to be. I titled this in our document, The Darkest Part of Ahsoka Isn't What You Think. And I feel like the real dark part of Ahsoka is her inability to really commit to something, to really say, hey, I'm going to be a part of this, and I'm going to be a part of a unit. I'm going to be a part of a community. I'm going to be a part of a family. She took the whole idea of the Jedi, and because she didn't believe it, she went even deeper into their beliefs, the whole idea of cutting off ties and not really trusting anyone, and just really going into this really negative part of the Force, while still being quote unquote a Jedi, but not being a Jedi at the same idea.
Where do you see that?
Mostly in what we see with her leaving the Order.
Okay.
And then in Rebels, where she is much more distant. Well, she is working with the rebellion. She is often working outside of the rebellion just as much.
Yeah.
And she's doing the Ahsoka things, which nobody knows what Ahsoka's doing except for except for Ahsoka. And then in the live action TV show, we see similar things where we see in Book of Boba Fett, of all places, the whole idea with Grogu and the choice between the Mandalorians and the Jedi, and just the inability to really see what was happening because she's so committed to being outside of things. And also, she skipped the whole original trilogy. She skipped the whole, pretty much the war with the Empire. Obviously, yes, the movies came out 50 years ago. Of course she wasn't in them. But we don't have a whole lot of explanation of that period of time. And now
that is true.
There's this big gap and she's like, okay, I'm ready to fight the Empire again.
Oof. Yeah. I mean, fair enough.
So that's why I think this is like the really dark part of Ahsoka is her inability to care deeply. She abandoned Sabine.
I don't know that I would go that far.
She left Anakin.
I wouldn't go that far because and we've seen her guilt over these things, and you wouldn't feel guilty and like sad about something if you didn't.
I'm not saying
care.
It's evil, but it's a dark splotch on her.
You're towing the line here, my guy.
I'm not thinking she's gonna take up a red lightsaber or anything.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. We got to give her some credit.
Yeah.
I mean, she's
a great character.
I think she's just hurt. Like, she's just a hurt character. And I think she's not really growing very well through that.
But she's also hurting everyone else, too, because of that.
Absolutely. She's just in that same cycle of protect myself and try not to hurt other people. But, of course, in that, she's hurting everyone and herself, and she's not growing. Here we are.
Yeah.
With Ahsoka in a new show. And let's hope we see some growth.
I think there is going to be a lot of growth. I don't think it's going to be in the ways that we expect it to be. I think we're going to see much more of a growth between her relationship of Sabine and their kind of journey and their training and all of that kind of stuff, as well as her taking into... Dave Filoni had this really interesting thing that I just saw as we were prepping to record. He said this: I'm telling this story about this mentor-student relationship that passes from Anakin to Ahsoka to Sabine. So I feel like he's really taking the whole idea of, for Ahsoka to move forward, she's going to have to go backwards. She has to take a look at what made her make the decision to leave the Jedi Order, abandon Anakin Skywalker, and partially fuel his turn to the dark side, as well as the steps that she took in her interactions with Sabine. All of these burning of bridges and burning of Ezra bridges.
Oh, I see what you did that.
So, like, we have this whole kind of lifetime to see these different pinpoints throughout the decades and throughout the Star Wars timeline. What does it look like for her to really like take apart her character, why she does the things that she does, and then look at where she needs to go for the future, specifically with Sabine, who is 100% Force sensitive.
Absolutely.
I hate it. I'm sorry.
I'm owed a coffee.
Yeah, you are. We will wait until the show comes out because I still, like I said in the intro, I feel like there's a lot of deception when Star Wars markets things. Yeah. They are constantly trying to say, oh, look over there, when they're really going the other way. It seems like she's going to be Force sensitive. And I think that's a shame because I think it's way more exciting for her as a character to not be Force sensitive. For her to stand on her own achievements without it being tied to an external force.
Yeah, the Force often seems like a easy way out for
this person's super overpowered,
extraordinary.
Which makes a Thrawn so cool. Like that's one of the main reasons Thrawn is so cool is he's not Force sensitive and he's able to like own and really move forward in the galaxy. He can stand up against Vader. He cannot be read by Vader because he is so like sure of himself and knows exactly what he's doing.
So that's going to be a really interesting comparison, not to like derail us, but the comparison of this character who does not know themselves, who has to reflect back to become what they always should have been and just to repair that, and then this person who is this villain who is like, I am exactly who I am and I know exactly what I'm doing, and moving the chessboard, like, ooh man, that could be very good.
I think it's a really fun thing to point out of like the comparison between Ahsoka and Thrawn. Ahsoka's the protagonist. Thrawn is definitely the overall antagonist. And they're two sides of the same coin. They want to kind of further their own beliefs. Ahsoka being really broken at this point and really not sure of what she needs to do, but isn't really able to accept the fact that she's going to have to do it. And Thrawn knows exactly what he needs to do, knows what Ahsoka needs to do to win, and has a counter attack to that. And then the main antagonist of this specific season, because I'm pretty sure we'll have multiple seasons depending on, like, considering all the interviews that we've had.
Yeah.
Where she's like, oh, I love this character. I really want a second season. I really embody this character and I'll still do it forever kind of thing. I expect that in this season we're going to see Balin Skull and that side of things really be the back and forth bad guy versus good guy kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the whole quote about him directly knowing Anakin and because of his fall to the dark side, understanding somehow that Anakin became Vader is what he's alluding to. I feel like we don't talk about this enough.
This is a taboo subject.
Vader is not Anakin in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
It is a tightly held secret. Very few know. Thrawn is renowned because he can theorize and pokes and knows about it, and that's like a big thing. If you go to some random person and say, hey, yo, do you remember the Clone Wars? That guy named Anakin? Yeah, the guy that's Darth Vader now. That's not something that happens.
No one ever says
Vader's
that.
a different person. So I wonder how they're going to tie that together.
Yeah.
Because that can go a little sketchy.
I think it might be a bit sketchy. Because I think it's just a convenience for him to be like, ooh, I'm just going to poke this little wound right here. Yeah. And it's more of a character development than it is like an actual feasible story plot line sort of thing.
But it does seem like we're going to get Anakin.
Yes.
Panic and Anakin. Yeah, it definitely seems like they're heavily alluding to it. I could see a Force ghost. I could see flashbacks.
All of the above.
Pretty much all the above. Yeah. I definitely suspect we're not going to see... We'll probably see a flashback with Ahsoka and Anakin. But I think most of the flashbacks, if we do get any, will be between Balin and Anakin.
Oh, really?
Because I think they need to find a good way to set up his character to survive Order 66. Because he's an Order 66 survivor. He's not a Sith. He's a Dark Jedi. So I feel like there's a lot of that kind of thing. Sith is like a structured thing. You know, it's like apprentice, master and apprentice, which I think might be in the case, but
there's definitely more of them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a little band of...
It feels more organized, and I don't think it's as structured, though, as like what a Sith would be.
It's not as like entrenched in this almost like religious mania of Sithness.
Yeah.
Okay, I could see that then. That
so I think that's where we're going to see most of it. Yeah. And I think the fact that Balin knows Anakin is going to be very fascinating to see how that affects Ahsoka and what she does to overcome that. Loss, that fear, and the call of the dark side of like knowing that the master that she loved and respected as a friend and mentor, as we see in Rebels, finds out that Anakin and Darth Vader are the same person, finds out and really has to overcome the thoughts around Anakin's turn to the dark side.
Balin's a weird character. Like I'm not exactly sure what to think of him right now, and I know that that's what they're kind of going at right now. I don't know. I don't know what to think of him. So you suggesting that we're gonna see like flashbacks and stuff. I don't know. For some reason, it doesn't feel natural. In how they've been telling these Star Wars stories. I don't know.
Well, in that one featurette, he says like his storytelling has definitely gotten more like experience and complex.
Immature.
Yeah.
If they're gonna do flashbacks with Balin, it's gonna be like minimal. It's gonna be very much like just flash sort of thing. Considering what they did in Obi-Wan, Hayden's role in that, I see more of like Ahsoka in him. I don't know. I
think it's gonna be fueled by Balin. Let me get more specific here. I feel like there's gonna be Balin knows, at least surface level, the interactions between Ahsoka and Anakin. And also, more than likely, knows that Ahsoka left the Order. So, knowing all this information, he's going to use it to try to manipulate and get in her head as much as possible. So, I think that's going to fuel some of the flashbacks at least. But I think, theorizing here, I think we're going to see at least one or two flashbacks specifically with Anakin and Balin. There's got to be another Order 66 flashback. Right.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is true. They've done that, and
Pretty much anytime they say Order 66, there's going to be a flashback to Order 66.
Because it's just got to be.
Yeah.
Huh. I'm going to be really interested to see what the motivation is for this bad guy, because right now I'm still confused.
Yeah.
Quite confused. And I mean, that's fine.
I think that's the point, too.
Yeah.
But moving on, we've got that whole theorizing going. Let's do a little bit of a recap for Ahsoka kind of through the ages.
Right.
First off, I want to talk about Clone Wars. There's been a lot of discussions, interview pieces, discussions around Ahsoka as a character, the creation of Ahsoka, and her introduction into Clone Wars. A lot of people still don't realize how big of a character she is in general across all of Star Wars if they didn't watch Clone Wars, if they didn't watch Rebels. But Ahsoka's huge. Ahsoka is, as a character, is super exciting and surprising because she's introduced as freaking Anakin Skywalker's Padawan.
Yeah. It was a crazy time.
And in one of the interviews around Ahsoka, the TV series, Dave Filoni was talking about like the origins of Ahsoka and how he was like, oh yeah, we had this Jedi and apprentice, and he's like,
there was a character that was a Jedi and there was a Padawan, and thought we'll put them on adventures, but George had other ideas. He says, well, in this character, and he points to the Padawan we had, and he says, let's give Anakin Skywalker a Padawan. And I was like, Anakin doesn't have Padawan. And he just looked at me and said, Anakin has a Padawan.
that's her.
No, Anakin has an apprentice.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
So we get a lot of, obviously, it's the Clone Wars as the backdrop. Ahsoka isn't the main character, but it's definitely a core piece of that.
A very core piece.
Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka are the main three pillars of the entire series. I'd say Captain Rex, you can throw him in there as well. Cody a little bit. You get the whole experience here through the eyes of Ahsoka, mostly, I'd say. Like she's kind of like our ground view when it comes to the whole of the Clone Wars. And then you look at the kind of journey that she has through the whole series, definitely a maturation of experiences, starting off as definitely that apprentice and then ultimately having roles where she leads different groups and different operations. And then you see her start to question her belief in kind of the Jedi Order. Well, outside we can say, oh yeah, she needed to get out of there because she's not in the prequel, like not in Revenge of the Sith, so obviously she needs to get out of there. But if you look at it from an in-world perspective, I think it's really fascinating because she's one of the few people that we know of that like left the Jedi Order in that way.
Yeah, as a choice.
And then went on a journey of like self-discovery and kind of taking all the pieces that she had learned through all of the years in the Clone Wars to what we know of her when we eventually see her again in Rebels.
Right. Yes, in Rebels, she's kind of this wizened, a very master-like role. Yeah, she bestows a lot of wisdom but is also playing at these different I'm thinking of when we first see her and she's playing this
informant.
Yes.
Spy.
Yes. She's using this alternate name and she's being very mysterious and whatnot. It's interesting. I feel like we're gonna be kind of seeing that more, or not really seeing that more, but like we're gonna be feeling why she would have chosen to do that instead of just, hey guys, I'm just here to help sort of thing. Instead of trying to be a part of something, she would decide to just be more isolated. And in one of the featurettes, kind of like behind the scenes documentary style-esque kind of featurette that was, I think it's like 7 minutes long, they talk about how she is the master. She is this very wizened and experienced Jedi. They were specifically talking about like the lightsaber skills and how you can't really see that. But when you say, hey, she's really talented and skilled and experienced in lightsaber combat, the Force is there, as well as her just experience in fighting this war. Having gone from the Clone Wars past the fall of the Empire, technically you have her with the Clone Wars, the fall of the Republic, the rise of the Empire, the fall of the Empire, and now once again the rise of the Resistance, which will ultimately lead to
the rise of the First Order.
Right.
So
also,
she is a through line through the whole trilogy, like all three of them.
Yeah, and she's lived through all that. She left the Jedi Order well before then, and so she must have some serious street smarts to be able to have
weaved through so many decades of varying controlling powers, the Empire, the Clone Wars, the attack of Order 66, the rise of Palpatine, the fall of Palpatine, where we are now, where the Empire is still there, the remnants of the Empire is still there. You have the warlords, you have the people that still believe in the Empire, and then you have the Resistance. The Resistance is rising from the ashes of the Rebellion and the ashes of the Empire. So there's a lot like we see in Mando Season 3. There's still a lot of technology from the Empire still being used for the original purposes and intentions. There's still ships that are being dismantled, but ships are still being used. There's such a fear of them becoming the Empire again, which sows the seeds for what we eventually will see in the First Order. There's already pieces there that we see in Mandalorian Season 3.
So seeing her in this new role, I am very curious to know how they're going to explain some of these time gaps.
Yeah.
Because they've got to. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, the Clone Wars was a while ago, guys.
Yeah, we're talking Vader / Anakin is now dead. Like...
Yeah.
Okay, like, nope, that was a lifetime.
And then we see her in live action, too, as a very different person. We see her kind of hopping in between and trying to find information, still fulfilling her fulcrum role, but in a very different world. You see her interacting with Luke Skywalker, mentioning, oh, hey, you're a lot like your father kind of thing. And we, as the audience, know what that means for her to say that as a character and the growth that he had. Luke at that point had lived through the redemption of Darth Vader, once again being Anakin Skywalker, and now is trying to build this new Jedi Academy. And then we see Ahsoka there as just like this passerby. She's a part of things, but she's not a part of things. She's talking to Luke, but isn't like helping him in any way. She still has her own goals, which is to find Grand Admiral Thrawn. And we see that in Mando Season 2. And generally, we just see a very interesting character when we look at live action Ahsoka, Rebels Ahsoka, and Clone Wars Ahsoka. You see her in these three very different stages of life, in three very different parts of the galaxy and the timeline.
And now we're going to see her embrace this role of master. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, having thrown it off, separating herself from Sabine, and generally just kind of stepping away from all things.
Stepping away
Jedi.
from people in general.
Yeah.
And the role of Jedi. Now she's going to become almost the thing she most fears.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Very fascinating. And I'm really excited to see where they take the character and what that ends up looking like in the series, and how it's going to change what we will eventually see later on, and whether it's a movie or a TV show or whatever. What is the character of Ahsoka going to be like in this new era? Yeah. In the Mandoverse.
Dun, dun, dun.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube, or contact@uplinkpodcast.com if you want to send us an email. It's a great spot. Love to hear all the feedback. If you want to leave us a review, that is super helpful. Helps us get new listeners, as well as gives us your feedback. So that's definitely helpful. You can listen to the podcast wherever you find podcasts. On the YouTube channel, you can find clips, highly edited documentary style stuff, as well as original content every Saturday on the channel. And hey, when Ahsoka comes out, we're going to be doing some very fascinating and exciting content, breaking down each episode as it comes out. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that out. As always, thanks for listening, and may the Force be with you.